When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy.
So, why would Josh Harkins and the Republican-led Mississippi legislature seek to come after Jackson's economic vitality now? Very interesting question. It has to do with power and land, and in the process of denying the self-determination rights of the citizens of Jackson. The airport sits on approximately 3,000 acres that's owned by the city of Jackson. Previously, that land was not accessible up until construction of a parkway that's in production as we speak that now makes the land accessible, and now all kinds of economic development opportunities are at hand. And so that's the real reason behind this proposed takeover of the Jackson Wiley Evers Municipal Airport.
I think that the reason for this timing of the airport takeover has to do with absolutely power and control, but when the city of Jackson annexed the property from Rankin County and Pearl, Mississippi, 40 some odd years ago, they probably didn't predict that the population would shift the way that it has, such that Jackson is now a predominantly black city. Therefore, the black constituents can vote blacks to power. Mm-hmm. And when we, as black Jacksonians, and whites too, elected the Honorable late Chokwe Lumumba to office in June of 2013, the white establishment got really, really nervous. They probably were a little bit nervous when the mayor was the city council member, but really got anxious when we successfully elected him. So many people, I believe, had been closet Chokwe supporters. But it's easy to go into a precinct and vote anonymously for a man like Chokwe Lumumba. And I believe that the white establishment was unpleasantly surprised by the sheer number of blacks who broke their necks to go to the precincts to vote him into power. Once we elected him, he understood completely the types of changes that he needed to make to different boards that had heretofore not been true assets to the black business class. So with the airport, there were several seats for commissioners that some were vacant and others, the commissioners' terms had ended. None of them really served the interest of black Jackson, though. Mm. So it made sense for the late Mayor Chokwe Lumumba to appoint members who were just as visionary about black Jackson's future, or Jackson's economic political future, as his. And so he appointed this all-black commission. That probably made people a little bit nervous. And then when they decided to fire certain agencies like or firms like Baker Donaldson, who had represented the airport for roughly 25 years, billing the city millions of dollars annually. When the commission decided to replace them with Walker and Walker, then Baker Donaldson and all of their cronies were upset. They lost money, and they lost it to formerly enslaved Africans of all people on the planet. How dare they make money or be on par with us economically when we should be on plantations still? So why now it has everything to do with shifting power. See, the white establishment, they do not seek to share power with us. They want to dominate and run Jackson strictly on their terms. And in those instances where they do us a favor and appoint blacks that appear to be black, when on the inside they share the interests of white supremacists. Why now?
If this takeover is successful, what would the Jackson Medgar Wiley Evers Airport look like? Well, first, the makeup of the commission would be altered. It would be increased by 4 members from 5 to 9. The appointment process would originate from the governor's office. All of the current changes, contracts, business that has been put in place by this current commission and proposed development and economic opportunities would be gone. It would be fully controlled by the white supremacists in the Mississippi legislature and the governor's office. Jackson, as most cities in the American Empire, has a very serious financial crunch. It would be exacerbated tremendously by this proposed takeover of the economic engine of this airport. It's very interesting, as June mentioned, that why now? That airport has been underutilized for years. Part of the plan that was put together in electing the late Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, it was talked about avenues in which new streams of revenue could be generated for the city of Jackson. The airport was one of them. Development at the airport on the acreage that's there. The rehabilitation and development of Hawkins Field that sits within the corporate city limits of Jackson was talked about as well. So as we see, this is tied into a very sinister plan to undermine Jackson's economic viability, because this isn't just the only action that's taking place. There's the proposed building of a wastewater treatment plant in West Rankin County. Matter of fact, in excess of $125 million. Now, Jackson serves about 4,000 to 5,000 residents of West Rankin County with water treatment, and it generates anywhere between $5 and $6 million of Jackson's budget. The national EPA has mandated that the Pearl River is not equipped to handle 2 wastewater treatment facilities of that size. Jackson currently has one of that size. So it doesn't take a very long leap to see that if this proposed facility is allowed to be implemented and they've gotten state permission to build this facility, then what does that mean for Jackson's control of its water? And what does it mean for Jackson being able to, again, be a viable economic engine for its own citizens? So there is obviously a concerted plan to totally cripple and undermine the black majority here in Jackson, Mississippi.
If the state is successful in taking over control, management, and operation of the airport, what that will look like is Josh Harkins and his family profiting quite a bit. Understand that Senator Harkins is a lobbyist for Flowood, and his family has some sort of real estate company. So he has personal interests in ensuring that Black Jackson no longer has control of management of the airport. The airport sits on roughly 3,000 acres. The vision of the Honorable late Chokwe Lumumba was to develop the property around the airport, as is the case in other metropolitan cities across the nation. But what makes Jackson unique is that it's in the South, of all places. But it only makes sense for an airport to have very close by hotels and retail and other airport-like amenities. But with Senator Harkins and his colleagues, his friends, his business colleagues, or what have you, they would be the greater beneficiaries. Of course, Black Jackson would spend money out there, but the dollars would not come back to Jackson in a way that would help to improve and keep Jackson economically afloat. And that I take issue with. And as Brother Keel has mentioned, that the airport is just one step towards taking over control of the city of Jackson. The other portion, another part of their plan is the Capital Complex Improvement District, which will be managed by a commission that mirrors that of the airport authority, where the governor will make 2 appointments, lieutenant governor will make 2 appointments. The majority of Jackson didn't even vote Phil Bryant into office, but he would be control of all things Jackson, it seems. So the look of it would be that though blacks reside in Jackson, at the end of the day, their vote would not matter. That their mayor, be it Tony Yarborough, or when we elect Chokwe Antar Lumumba in 2017, that the mayor's power is exponentially reduced in this so-called democracy. And to me, it doesn't make sense.
It's interesting. What can the people of Jackson do to thwart this plan to take over Jackson economically, politically, in every aspect of life? We've got to study our history as how we mounted resistance to these types of actions against black people in this country and around the world. You're right, they have a supermajority. They control both houses, they control the governor's office, and probably will for the very foreseeable near future. So it's going to take us using every aspect of people power to resist this, as well as figuring out ways to use our economic power to divest and issue punitive economic sanctions to the bedroom communities that surround Jackson. See, it's very, very interesting how this thing works, and it's very simple as well. If you take Madison to the north of us, in the city of Madison, it's roughly 15 to 18,000 people. To the east of us, you've got Pearl and Flowood. Combine those together, you may have 32,000 folk. You put all of them together and they don't come, they're not even a third of the size of Jackson. I think the census says there's about 175,000 people in Jackson. Well, we know that all of our people don't participate in the census. So there's probably roughly 200,000 people within the city limits of Jackson. Those numbers and the rooftops